Good evening, everyone. We are back once again, continuing our Studio Ghibli retrospective. Today, we are talking about 1994's Pom Poko, directed by Isao Takahata. I knew nothing about this film. You're going to get used to me saying
I
that pretty much
still know
every week.
nothing about this film. It was boring. It was.
And we've instantly lost all of our viewers. I really like this film, and we'll talk about it in just a second. This is going to be interesting. We've got two very, very differing opinions on this. The extent of my knowledge of this one, I had seen sort of like the image of all of the raccoon dogs together, all of the tanuki, and all of their testicles are on show. And I'd heard from people that had watched this film that this was the weird one. So I went in with that idea. I didn't read anything about the plot. I didn't realize that this was a huge success in Japan. Japan submitted this at the
Because of the
67th
testicles.
Academy Awards for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, but it wasn't accepted as a nominee for whatever reason. I don't know why. So yeah, here we go. I'm gonna hand over to you first. Pom Poko. Well, first off, tell everyone at home what Pom Poko's about, and then let's go into your thoughts from there.
About raccoons, they transform. No, I know.
Just transform and roll out like
It's
what?
transforming raccoon. Yeah, basically. No, but it's because basically obviously humans building over land, their land being taken away from them. Essentially, it's that kind of environmental story.
Yeah.
And if you look at it like that, it's cool. It's just I think I even said this to you before that the characters, it's like, oh, they're interesting characters for like the first 2 seconds you meet them, and then after that, I no longer give a shit about those characters. Like they had a quirkiness for about 2 seconds, and then I was like, all right, cool, I'm done. They see them again, and they're just annoying. You're like, fuck off, please. Like that. That's what the characters became for me, and it became a plot that was just like silly characters, shit I didn't care for, in a cool idea for an overarching plot, but I've seen that done loads of times and much better.
I think for me, I mean, you watched this in the English language translation. I
I
think this.
did, and the brain narrated it. It was great, but aside from that, it was so like in one ear, out the other kind of thing, and I was just like,
This is one that I'd be very interested to watch the English version of, because I messaged you as I was watching it saying that this feels like the most Japanese Studio Ghibli film
because of the
that we've
samurai.
watched so far, that we've talked about. This film is completely steeped in folklore and mythology and historical stories and legends and everything like that. Stuff as a Westerner, I'm watching it and I might be vaguely aware of some iconography in the film, but for the most part, a lot of these references and like Easter eggs to certain spirits, and like the Tanuki, and then you've got like the fox spirits, which I knew nothing about, which are like the Kitsune, and there's all this history, this deep history that's steeped in this film, and which is going to be lost on a lot of viewers like myself. And I knew that it probably was mythology and near and dear to the hearts of many of the Japanese viewers of this film. I think a lot of the jokes, maybe a lot of the quippiness, could be very cultural. A lot of the humor didn't particularly land for me. And most of the time I was just going, oh, this is a little bit weird, isn't it? Stuff like where the the Tanuki stretch out their scrotums and shape shift
Yeah.
it into things. I was like, at first I thought it was like a happy kids movie. You have these very realistic depictions of the Tanuki, which I really liked. It reminded me of something like Bambi or something, where you're seeing these this sort of realistic take on these animals in their environment, and then they morph into the more sort of like Winnie the Pooh-esque, more cartoony characters, more larger than life appearance of them. And then like a lot of their antics is very strange. As I said, like the scrotum stuff, I was like, that's bizarre. And then I did
There
a little
was
bit of,
something in one of the songs they sang as well. I can't remember what they said.
yeah, like it starts off with like the old the village elder says like, look, you guys are sitting on my testicles. I was like, you would never get this in like a Western audience, would you? Like little kids go to see this, you see these like happy little raccoon dogs playing and frolicking in the meadow, and then all of a sudden they're talking about balls, and there's quippy humor there. So I think a lot of the humor is very cultural. and I did a little bit of research on this. There's a great video actually on YouTube that's about a 25-minute long video that goes into most of the references and what all the folklore harkens back to. And the whole thing about the Tanuki having giant balls and scrotum and making things out of that is steeped in the folklore. That's the thing. Apparently, it goes back to blacksmiths used to, I think it was like stretch gold into gold leaf, and they
Hey,
used the scrotum of the Tanuki to do it. Apparently,
I like really out there and bizarre stuff, so cool, but that doesn't make it a good movie. It's still boring. It's
okay.
like,
Let's go with that. Why was it boring to you? Let's start with that. Why was it boring?
first off, why was it 2 hours long?
I agree with that. I do think the runtime was a little bit too much at 2 hours.
It was
I
just very
agree.
slow paced between events. So like, it felt like you're watching. Let's say there's 10 scenes. You're watching like 3 vital scenes and 7 filler. That's how it kind of felt. It felt like there was a lot of that going on, or the scenes that were like, okay, why is this still dragging on? You know what I mean?
I feel like they could have tightened it up,
Yeah.
but when all was said and done, I sort of looked at the film as a whole, and I kept thinking like, well, what would I have removed? What would I have cut from the film? And I couldn't really think of anything, because it seemed to me like every
Antics
scene.
between the characters, because they were shit after 2 seconds. Remember? Anything that was to do with the antics between the characters.
I will say one thing I was surprised about is that there isn't really a lead character in this so much. It is very much the colony, the community of these Tanuki, and
Like Chicken Run.
yeah, exactly. And there are some moments that, certain characters, certain personalities are pushed more to the forefront, maybe, and more recurring, but there's not that like one main protagonist that we follow throughout the film. We're just sort of an observer part of this community. And as the film goes on, this was the more fascinating stuff that I liked. They're trying to repel the humans from their habitat. The humans are building this new, cutting down a lot of trees, deforestation, because they're building a new living complex, a city almost, or a township. And through very violent means, actually, the Tanuki are kind of repelling the humans, which I was initially shocked about. Like, they mentioned that the Tanuki kill people. There's like 3 deaths initially at the construction site. But then as the film develops, what I really liked, and this is where I think like I couldn't cut anything out of the movie, we see the strife of the Tanuki, and then eventually they break apart into different factions because they've all got different ideas about how they need to deal with the humans. Some go with more of an environmental plea, like, oh, sorry, can you just bump my volume down because it's coming through quite bad. Some go for a more environmentalist approach, and a more activist kind of thing, demonstrations and things like that. And then you've got other ones that think, well, in order to survive, we need to integrate with the humans. We need to become a part of their community and shapeshift into humans. And then you've got another crew that can't shapeshift.
That one.
I like all of that stuff. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it was just done in a really boring way. It's a cool idea. It was just done in a boring way. You know what I mean?
I think maybe the film could have benefited from a main character, but also I think just seeing this sort of blanket, sort of like, this is the community. You get all the personalities from everyone. You understand their strife and why they're trying to do what they do. And we've seen this in a number of Studio Ghibli films before this point, the ever-recurring themes of environmentalism and nature versus humans, and that balance between the two. We've seen films such as Only Yesterday, where you have humans in a very busy populated city or populated Japan, an urbanized Japan, and that call, that need to go back and touch base with nature.
The Japanese are not humans. That is why they have to do it.
And all of these themes are in this film, and more so. The ending to this film, which I won't spoil just yet, but we will towards the end of this review, is incredibly poignant to me. Like, the last 15 minutes or so is probably one of the strongest moments in all of these Studio Ghibli films that we've looked at so far. It's really like the themes of humans versus nature. It's nothing new. We've seen it in a lot of things before. We've seen it in a lot of studio. we've seen it in a lot of Studio Ghibli films before. But nonetheless, I thought it had real heart to it. I thought it was a very bittersweet ending, and I liked that by the end of this thing, there isn't really a clear-cut answer. It's sort of an unknown future. That there's a fourth wall breaking moment where one of the characters turns to the audience at the very end and sort of pleads for them to consider animals and everything like that. It's a little bit on the nose. I could have maybe done without the fourth wall break.
I could have done without all of it.
You got to give me you got to give me more to go on than that, mate. Because at the moment I'm just hearing it's boring, it's crap. I didn't like it. It's boring.
No, I know.
Rubbish.
I think I'm being a bit harsh, to be fair.
Let's go into it. Why?
The thing is, there was just moments even like that. So I think that's a good example. So that kind of happened. You're like, do you know what? That could have been all right, but you just didn't execute it well. Do you know what I mean? There was just a lot of it where what's the guy, the one in the red?
Oh, yeah, he's the. I'm gonna be rubbish on the names. Yeah, he's a bit disgruntled, isn't he?
Yeah, so like every now and then,
like I think his name
would be a really interesting character, or really fun. He would do something, and after 2 seconds, I'd be like, eh.
Well, he was the one. I mean, I can tell you exactly what his character's like. He's the one who's the initial call to action. He wants to repel the humans initially through very, very violent means, and he's the one who's championing them all to, commit all of this sabotage essentially and to scare the humans at the industrial site, at the construction site, which leads to a bunch of deaths. And he's championing this. He's like, yeah, let's kill all the humans because it's not going to work with just a few. They initially think that they're going to stop construction. There's throughout the media, they bring into question the whole spirituality of it, that they've had to move a bunch of shrines to make way for this new road or this new complex that they're building. And from some of the old timers, there's a lot of suspicion there, thinking, oh, we've angered the spirits. And the Tanuki are helping to facilitate that. They're wanting to push that narrative. And when they learn that, well, the humans aren't going to abandon the construction, they're just going to double down, they're just going to send more humans in. That raccoon that you just mentioned, he's the one who says, well, we need to just kill more of them, until they realize, someone points out, if we get rid of all the humans, we're not going to have delicious McDonald's.
And that concept is cool. Concept on that character, you think this is going to be, and it just wasn't. After 2 seconds, I was like, and this is what every plot point was for me.
Well, no, because then towards the end of the film, he's the one who leads that demonstration, isn't he? He's the one
that's fine. But it doesn't matter. He was still boring to watch after the first 2 seconds.
I mean, you're saying there's not much to his character, but I'm arguing that there is. There's moments where he grows.
No. I'm not saying there's not much. Right. So it's a good concept for a character, right? Cool. There's things that happen in his life, but what I'm saying is, it just wasn't executed well. Again, it was like he was kind of boring after 2 seconds. The idea of him was cool, but do you get what I'm saying?
I mean, I got aspects of the characters. There isn't a focal character that we follow beginning to end. There's a collection of characters, but I think that helps play into the fact that this community has differing opinions of how to go about this encroaching force that is this humanity.
I will say,
time.
I will say, though, my favorite scene with the samurai, with the, where he changes it. It's like, I'll show us the story of whatever it is.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And the samurai with the water and stuff. That was really cool. I did like that.
So that's I know that's a legendary story where he fired an arrow and it hit a fan or something that was on a ship. It's all part of that YouTube video I was watching earlier. I recommend everyone checking that video out because it is quite fascinating to hear. Well, it was to me anyway, because I love mythologies and folklores, and especially of a mythology of a culture that I'm not really that aware of, to be honest. So there was a lot of new stuff there. There's so many different like monsters and creatures and gods that appearing this, especially during that parade scene where the Tanuki recruit the village elders, essentially, who are masters of shape-shifting, and they create this like terrifying...
999 years old.
Yeah, he's like Yoda, and he shows up, and they create this terrifying spectacle of all of these gods and creatures and monsters in order to scare the humans away. It sort of reminds me of a little bit of Beetlejuice. You know how they're trying to scare the humans out of their house because it's like, no, we belong here. This is our place. But it ends up backfiring. and the people of the town think it's this crazy, wonderful, colorful carnival. They can't believe their eyes of how anyone achieved this. And then like a theme park owner takes credit for it, right? I think at that point, and it's just going to bring more people in and has got more attention. So a lot of the village elders died for nothing, and it's just this constant desperation of the Tanuki trying to find a way to find a balance in their community or to
Man
replace
versus
humans.
nature.
Yeah, and it's just, as I said earlier, like I really liked the angle of them consulting with. They initially think they're humans, and then they find out that they're actually shape-shifting foxes that have also gone through a similar thing before, the kitsune. And they said, like, look, if you want to survive, you've got to just become part of humans. If you can't beat them, join them, essentially. And they said,
How
well,
many
what
times
about?
have we heard that?
And it's like, well, what happened to all the foxes that couldn't shapeshift? Because some have the power and some don't. Some have the, I guess it's like the force. Like some people have it, some don't. I guess like these magical gifts. And they said, well, only the strongest genes survive. So unfortunately, they all died. So the raccoons that can't transform, that can't shapeshift, they're going to all die out. And I was actually, as I was watching it, especially towards the end where they mentioned that the urbanization of the city is just growing, and all of the woodlands being cut down not far from where I am. I'm going to sound like an old man now. Like when I was younger, not even just a couple of years ago, there were so many more fields around and just green land. And even within just a few short years, there's loads more of these, like these really cramped housing estates that they build, like these houses that they just throw up in like 5 minutes. Like
Yeah.
there's so many more of them now that have cropped up, like a lot of the farmlands going, a lot of
The
the
ones that all look really pink.
yeah. And they've got like the
Good.
road running through the middle of them, the very the ones that I'm talking about. So many more of them now, and it's just going to get more and more as the need for more houses and more people come in, that it's just going to happen. And I was thinking of stuff like that, like, yeah, it is a shame, all of this.
How is the earth going to be able to breathe?
Well, there you go, that's your argument from this film. And then I was also thinking of times in history where you have things like you have peoples like the Native Americans who were pushed out of their land, and you had the the Americans coming in, and the world was changing around them. And you had some that were like, well, we'll join their culture, we'll abandon our name, we'll cut our hair, and we'll take up a new Christian name or whatever and become a part of them so that we can live. You had other people that were trying desperately to the last man to fight them, even though they didn't have the the firepower or anything like that, or the funds. And then you had other people, all different ways of going about these things. And then ultimately their way of life is just crushed, or they're put on reservations, or just very, very small bits of land. And I was drawing parallels to that when I was watching it too. So towards the end of this film, it was starting to affect me more.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Like I say, I like the idea and the concept behind it. I'm not disputing that at all. I just think it was just the execution of the characters. Like at first, it would be like, okay, this is kind of cool, but it would all get old very quickly, Maybe that is because of the runtime. Maybe I did just think, okay, we need to speed things up. I don't know, but
I do think it's excessive. I agree with that. I don't think this needed to be 2 hours. I think you could have done this in like 90 minutes. I don't think, whilst I love the concept of the story, I don't think the story necessarily had legs for 2 hours.
Yeah,
That being
exactly.
said, like I look back and think, well, what could I have cut out? I guess you could tighten the pacing a little bit and get the plot points moving a bit quicker, but I don't think it wasted the time in between. I think it maybe needed those moments of uncertainty with the characters where they're sort of plotting their next plan of action, and we're seeing this community sort of break apart into the different factions that we get. Yeah, Carl says, where I live, the woodland is being destroyed for warehousing. Yeah, it's happening, and it will continue, unfortunately,
Every day, forever.
I think they did mention as well that, like, I know Takahata directed this, but Miyazaki as well, that one of his influences is Tolkien, and Tolkien has a lot of environmental themes throughout most of his works, especially in the Lord of the Rings, about how you have like the industrialization of Isengard and cutting down the trees in order to fuel the furnaces of war, and buildings that are belching smoke out, and chimneys and houses of brick and everything. Like, he mentioned that he had such a love for the natural world. So I think I'm actually noticing this more now in a lot of the media that I consume and a lot of the stories that I like. That theme is very consistent, and I do think that theme can be very heavy-handed if you get stuff like, or inspired, like the Avatar films, for example, the James Cameron Avatar films. It's like, well, we're not really doing anything new here, are we? We're not doing anything in a
See,
particularly
those are movies I
nuanced
could
way.
hands down just say were shit.
I think the writing's just really bad in them. It's just very surface level. Whereas the writing in this, yes, some of the jokes didn't really land for me. It's a different culture, completely different sense of humor, which is why I'm interested in watching the English version, the dubbed version, because I think maybe some of those jokes might land, or maybe they don't, because as I say, you didn't really care for this one. But I am wondering how they go about, because this is very Japanese. As I said, it's steeped in Japanese culture, beginning to end. I've heard more so than any Studio Ghibli film when it comes to this one. One thing I really appreciated about this as well is that it really doesn't shy away from the violence of this film and the darker moments. The Studio Ghibli films that we've reviewed so far are so varied, as we've mentioned. You can go from the happy, whimsical My Neighbor Totoro to the absolutely devastating, stark, harsh reality of war, which is Grave of the Fireflies. And I feel like this is somewhere in between. You've got the sort of comedic, slapsticky moments, the colorful, whimsical characters, but then you have moments of like genuine death, like the moment that I mentioned where they kill humans at the construction site. Like 3 of them lose their lives. Later on, when you're seeing the bodies of the Tanuki, whether they're like roadkill or whether they're shot at or animals have got to them or whatever, the very realistic depiction of death is frequent throughout this film. And I thought that was impactful when you've got like a huge pile of like the Tanuki that have just been ran over by a truck or something.
Well, this is the thing. It's that whole it is quite a serious tone within a kids' movie kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Throughout the whole thing, from the actual plot, realistically in itself, is quite a serious plot. And then going into that, but they still make it a kids' movie.
Mm-hmm. I know. I really appreciate that, and I imagine that it might be like kids can handle a lot when it comes to media. Like, I think, especially now with a lot of kids' films, there's a lot of sugarcoating things. And even if we think back to films from our childhood, or certainly from like the 80s, there are a lot of dark, creepy, scary moments in those films. And there's a maturity to them. And I think, yeah. But I think even as a kid, I remember, although I might have been scared or intimidated by certain things in those films, I still enjoyed the adventure of it. And as long as you have a happy ending, like this was Don Bluth's sort of idea here, as long as the film has a happy ending, kids can tolerate a lot in films and they can handle a lot.
Well, realistically, did Bambi have a happy ending?
I can never remember the ending of Bambi. That's the issue. I still can't now.
Well,
I remember
Bambi's mom died.
Time.
He still had to fend for himself. It's not very happy, is it?
And this one is definitely a bittersweet ending, but I think it's the perfect ending for this film. I guess we can go into the ending now a little bit more. We see that the Tanuki are at absolutely desperation. Like, so many of their numbers have been culled. There's only just like a few stragglers hanging on now, and they're looking out at this this city, this urbanized location that continues to grow and is getting bigger. And they realize that their days are numbered. And in one last ditch effort, one of them just, it was so emotionally impactful to me. One of them just breaks down and starts sobbing, saying, like, I miss how it used to be. Like, what have the humans done? And I think it's acted really well, and I think the moment is incredibly impactful. And they all join their powers together to shapeshift the entire land for one last look, almost, to remind everyone, to remind themselves and the humans that are currently living there what the area used to look like 30 or so years ago. And like, all the green comes back and all the hills and the trees. And the humans are getting very nostalgic as well. And it's that same sort of theme that we talked about in Only Yesterday, where people who are living the city life, they really want to just ground themselves and go back to a sense of nature, that spiritual connection to nature, and they're getting that in this moment. And the people that are living there, the Tanuki shapeshift into familiar faces that were there 30 years ago. So you've got people going, oh, that's my old relative, like I'm going to go out and say hi to them, and they're filled with a sense of nostalgia and a completeness that they're now getting back in touch with nature. And that this might hopefully have a knock-on effect to the future, that there will be a push for more like parks and more nature to be built within the city.
I think the biggest issue with the pacing in this, and including all that, is it's tried to create this big world within this space of a movie, and do you know what I mean? Like, we've got all this stuff going on, but it's like you've only got a certain amount of time, and I really think they crammed a lot into that 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
I don't know though. It just felt
you're complaining it's boring. You're complaining it's boring. So if anything, the argument would be that there's not enough in those 2 hours to keep you engaged. But now you're saying that there is a.
No. There's too much of it. There's too much of it. It needs to be trimmed down. It needs to not be dragged out as much. Like, they're trying to build this whole world in that space of time, so it's ended up dragging for 2 hours, and it's just a drag.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of really, really good stuff in this, especially towards the end. I thought it was incredible. And then you sort of see the different states of all the characters. You've got some of the Tanuki that couldn't shapeshift, that are just, living off scraps from the bins, trying to live among the humans. Some are still getting knocked over, a roadkill and whatnot. You've got a lot of them that have integrated with the humans and have done what the Kitsune suggested.
Live in the UK?
No, no, they're not native to this country.
Where are they native to?
That's like America mostly, isn't it?
So we'll never see a raccoon. That's a shame.
Some areas of Asia, I think.
Are they like badgers?
They're probably more like foxes, I think.
Size-wise.
Oh yeah. These things get pretty big. Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, and then a lot of them integrate with the humans, but I'm sure this is a feeling that we've all felt, is, especially those that live in the city. I mean, I don't live in a city, but I know that you live in a city, have lived in cities, the sort of like humdrum life. You've got a lot of them that just are beset by this concrete jungle and this world that's just around them, the sort of like the Groundhog Day effect of integrating with humans and that need to get back to nature. I think that's definitely going to be a theme that's going to be recurring through a lot of these films, as we've seen already. How many films are we in at the moment? This was so we're 9 films in.
Oh, Pom Poko. Close.
And I'm sure that this is just going to be continuing as we go through, and I haven't got bored of it yet. And as long as they come up with different ways of saying it, which I feel like up to this point, looking at all the films, they have handled very similar themes in very different ways, to different degrees of seriousness or maturity, or
yeah. I mean, these kind of themes in anime and that sort of stuff is not uncommon. They're great themes to use, and it's always great watching them. Yeah, I'm not gonna keep downplaying this movie. There's great ways to watch them. I've seen this story a lot of times. I just think it was just so long.
One thing that didn't stand out to me as much in this film, and maybe I just wasn't listening out for it, was the music.
Yeah, it didn't stand out to me.
So Shang Typhoon apparently did the music, which is a fucking incredible name. But yeah, there were no particular themes that stood out to me. Now, I suppose if I listen to this music in isolation on its own, on the soundtrack, there probably is some beautiful music in there. But I think I was more swept up in like the themes towards the end of this, and the plight of the characters. And I like that ultimately it arrives at a place of they've just got to find a way to survive, essentially, through whatever means that is. And all of them go about it in different ways. And there's an uncertain future. The final shot of the movie is all of the surviving raccoons meeting on what is now a golf course, and sort of panning up, probably this artificial grass maybe, or these very small pockets of nature that are spread across the city, and an uncertain future. And I like that. I thought that was a sort of like a good bittersweet way to end
you just hate artificial grass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks shit. I saw someone, they had half artificial grass and half real, and I was like, is this like a spot the difference thing? It's not very good.
So yeah, I mean that's Pom Poko for me. I don't know where this would rank in terms of my favorites. I know that I probably sound um very enthusiastic about this film on the review tonight. I do echo your sentiments. I think 2 hours was very long, and I did sort of have to break it up as I was watching it earlier today. So I do think that the runtime is a little bit excessive for the story. I think maybe the lack of main character does hurt the film just a little bit. I think it's maybe difficult to really connect deeply with the character because you don't have any one character to do that with. You're just sort of looking at this community and how this community, pulls together and eventually breaks apart and goes about things in their own different ways. But I think the themes, whilst not being anything groundbreaking or anything new, are handled in a very respectful and like almost spiritual way by the end of it. Like I think this for me, and even like the ending of Only Yesterday, and I know that both of us weren't massively keen on that film. I still think about the ending to that film, which I guess is sort of similar to this one. It's that getting back to nature kind of feel and thinking about your past and being very is it reminiscent? Is that the right word?
So it kind of links up.
Being nostalgic kind of thing. Yeah, in a way. I think a lot of these films do. A lot of these films do in some way. They're all sort of connected through various things. Speaking of which, there's a scene during the parade in this. Did you catch some of the characters that got a cameo from previous Ghibli movies during
I
the
did
parade? There's a few, I think. So you see Kiki fly past, which I thought was pretty cool, on her broomstick. You have, I think there's a character in there from Only Yesterday, and oh god, there's another one. You see the red plane from Porco Rosso. You see that fly past. So
Okay,
yeah.
that's quite cool. It's quite cool that they've done that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Studio Ghibli's in its dip at the moment, though, for me.
I think it's on a dip. Well, next week we've got Whisper of the Heart, which I know nothing about, but then we've got Princess Mononoke, and then that's some
Very
good
good.
stuff. I can't wait to rewatch that again. And you get the English dub as well, which is also really great.
See, I've never seen it, so I've never seen any of them. All the first time.
Whisper of the Heart, 1 hour 51, and Princess Mononoke at 2 hours 13 minutes. That's an epic, that one. So yeah, I'm not going to read anything about Whisper of the Heart. I like going into these completely cold. And yeah, I don't know where I'd rank Pom Poko out of all of these. It's
Awesome.
I don't know if it'd be in my top 3 so far. It's going to be very difficult, I think, when we come to rank these so far. I think my favorite 3 at the moment are probably, in no particular order, My Neighbor Totoro, Grave of the Fireflies, and Castle in the Sky, maybe. I think they might be my favorite 3 so far, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with 2 of them. I don't know what I'll put as a third, though.
Mm-hmm. I did enjoy stuff like Porco Rosso and Kiki's Delivery Service, though, as well. It's yeah.
But
But yeah,
Totoro has everything.
we need to get through more of these, which one a week. We're getting there. By the end of the year, we'll have all of these done, and that will be a huge thing to tick off just in terms
And
of
now
films
this is
I need
number
to see.
9. So from the first movie that we did until today, someone who was carrying a baby would have had said baby by now. Wait, no, they wouldn't. 9 months, 9 weeks. My brain went completely wrong. I said something. It's okay. We're okay.
When did we start this one? So it was
9 months ago, apparently.
yeah. I mean, I think we miss a week here or there at some point. I think maybe. So we're probably looking at 10 weeks. It's like 2.5 months ago. Was it?
Yeah.
They go quick though. I guarantee when we finish this list and we look back and we go, oh, there's 24 films. It's basically half a year, give or take.
Yeah, half for Disney.
Yeah, that's it. That was still our biggest retrospective. There are retrospectives that we could do that would have more films than that. That's what scares me, including one that I'm mulling over starting very soon. Actually, I need to do the maths on that, but I won't go into any more detail on that. But I'm thinking of another retrospective to run alongside this. We will see. Right, we're going to round it off there, guys. So if you have seen
Simpsons.
it, let's.
Is that it?
What? No. Let us know
That'd be a
your
long one.
thoughts on Pom Poko. What do you think of it? Do you fall into Dale's camp with this and you really, really dislike it? Or maybe you fall in my one where I really enjoyed this one. Anything about the Studio Ghibli films as we continue our retrospective, please do keep the conversation going. And do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. I'm going to be at the cinema for the next couple of weeks, both of which are rescreenings of films. So I am at the 41st anniversary of This Is Spinal Tap next week. I guess that's gearing up for the sequel. We'll have to do a review on the sequel, by the way, because I know we both really, really like that first film.
Yeah, the first one. I'm
Yeah.
scared of the sequel.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. And then the week after that, I'll be seeing Jaws 50th anniversary on the big screen. Apparently, it's all been revamped and 4K'd and yeah, so good stuff. In terms of everything else that's going on behind the scenes, me and JX are working tirelessly on the Hobbit edit redo, the remake, update, whatever you want to call it. We're working on a scene last night, a brand new scene that now we've got AI we can create, and manly tears were shed. Like, I had an idea in my head, I had a vision of what I wish the scene could look like, and every time we have an editing session, we got this step closer to it yesterday, and we came up with a shot that was exactly like how I wanted in my head. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that scene turns out. So things are in motion, things are happening. I do think I did want to try and get it done over the next 2 weeks. I think that's going to be too short a deadline with all of the new things that we're trying. So I'm going to try and shoot for the end of the year if I can. If I can get it done in 2 weeks, happy days. But I don't want to put that date on it and have you guys be disappointed. But once certain key scenes are done, I'll be uploading them like I did my previous Hobbit scene with the intro that I uploaded on my channel, so you guys can see exactly what I'm working on. Oh yeah, people are asking, where are the posters? I was at For the Love of Fantasy Comic-Con this in London this weekend just gone, where I pretty much met the entire Lord of the Rings cast. Most of them again. There was a couple of new people that I got to meet. I got to meet Sir Ian McKellen, which was incredible. It was just like a ticket, like life moment. And I met Bruce Hopkins, who plays Glamdring, Gamling from The Two Towers and Return of the King, King Theoden's right-hand man, who was an absolutely sound bloke. Had a great conversation with him. So all my posters have been signed now. Originally, I was just going to get a signature of whenever the character was introduced in the films.
So they're all done, complete.
Well, not complete. You know,
Okay.
I need Vigo, I need Sean Bean, Kate Blanchett, Hugo Weaving. You know, some poor fuckers are dead now that I can't get. So I'm never going to get them all. But I met all 4 of the Hobbits again. I met Ian McKellen, John Rhys-Davies, who plays Gimli. I met Craig Parker, who plays Haldir. As I say, Gamling, I met him too. Andy Serkis. David Wenham, who plays Faramir. So yeah, I met a good chunk of them this weekend, which was really cool. So the posters will be going back up. They're still in their tubes. I've just been too lazy to put them back up on my wall. I bought a stack of new Funko Pops as well, which I'll probably take a picture of and put on my community page. Some Chase Pops that are really, really hard to get and were very expensive, unfortunately. And yeah, at the Comic-Con, I guess we can talk about this now. You've seen the films too. Ian McKellen either was told that he could say this or accidentally let slip that both he, Gandalf, Ian McKellen, and Frodo would both be reappearing in The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, which is scheduled to come out December 17th, 2027. He mentioned that filming is going to happen next May, I believe. So, yeah. What do we think about Frodo coming back for
Terrible.
The Hunt for Gollum?
We feel terrible about it. And I speak for everyone on the planet. That's it.
I feel like it's going to fall into the same trap that The Hobbit did, where it was like, this is a chance to get the gang back together again. And just to get all these familiar faces. Did this person show up in the Hunt for Gollum chapter moment in The Lord of the Rings? No. Well, fuck it. We'll find a way to crowbar him in.
And
anyway.
then what you'll do is at the end of Hunt for Gollum, you'll get a post-credit scene, and they'll be like, "Oh, there's gonna," and then there'll be a second one, and yeah.
So when it comes to Frodo, I think they're going to do something similar with what they did with Ian Holm as Bilbo in the Hobbit films. I think that the Frodo stuff's going to be a framing device, and I don't see it going beyond that because, and this is to suggest that we're assuming that they're going to be faithful to the book, and I really don't think they're going to with this. The whole hunt for Gollum like period of time takes up 17 years in the book, which the film glosses over. In the film, it feels like Gandalf's gone for like a month.
Yeah, if you didn't tell me it was 17 years, I thought it was like a week or yeah.
Yeah, like Gandalf leaves. He says, "Keep it secret, keep it safe," and he leaves Frodo with the ring in the envelope. It cuts to a scene of Barad-dûr being built and the ring wraiths coming out of Minas Morgul, and then the very next shot is Gandalf rocking up to Minas Tirith. That's in Gondor. That is literally a world away. It takes them 2 extra films to get to that point. So, and he's there in the next shot. So I personally don't. I am probably going to do a separate video on this, so I don't want to go like massively in depth in this now. But my biggest fear with like when you mentioned that Elijah Wood's in there was just like scattered claps from across the room. And I was just there like, why? Why is Frodo in there? He's not in the story. Like, there's moments in the book where Gandalf periodically comes back to check in with Frodo before he's gone for like another like 8 years or something during that 17-year gap. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they are probably going to try. It's not going to be spread over 17 years. Could you imagine that in a film? Like, you'll have like a bit of a scene, and then it'll be like, and then 5 years later, I heard this information, so I went off.
That's why they're going to do a part 2 and 3.
Oh God, I hope not. I don't think. Real talk. God forbid. I don't think Ian McKellen's going to make it that long. Now I know that Christopher Lee made it to the ripe old age of 93. Fair play to him, and he was there for the Hobbit films and did a great job. But Gandalf's like an active player in this film. He's walking around, he's investigating shit, he's moving from place to place. Not to mention Vigo has got to come back as Aragorn, who also plays a crucial role in the hunt for Gollum. He's old as shit now. And so there's going to be a lot of de-aging. There's going to be a lot of Snapchat filters on people's faces to make them all look glossy and shiny. And you're never going to make it line up 100% with Lord of the Rings. So
they
to me,
it's like dolls, don't they? They always like dolls' heads when they do that. It's weird.
To me, it's just an absolute cash grab by the company. It's like, what other stories of Tolkien can we just like wring every single, no pun intended, wring every single drop out of? And the Hunt for Gollum's the next victim of that, I feel.
That's what
they're just going to crowbar it. So in the story, you're going to have Thranduil's in the story, which means they're going to go by the Hobbit logic of, well, if Thranduil's in the story, then we're going to put Legolas in there again because he's Thranduil's son. They're probably going to put Evangeline Lilly's Tauriel character in there, although she did retire from acting. And then my biggest worry is stuff like in the book, Aragorn is carrying Gollum single-handedly across Middle-earth. And that's cool, and that's badass, and that's heroic, and it shows the endurance and tenacity of Aragorn. But for a film, you're just going to have Vigo on his own, not talking to anyone. So I feel like, are they going to give him a sidekick, a buddy on the road to help him on his quest? Who's either going to be
a woman.
It's either going to be Liv Tyler, they're going to bring Arwen into it because we need women's in this film, or it's going to be a brand new character who's probably going to be like a black lesbian elf lady who's going to help him on his quest or something.
Could be played by Whoopi Goldberg.
There you go. She'd be right at home in Middle-earth, wouldn't she?
Yep.
Yeah, as I say, I'll probably make a separate video on this at some point, and it'd be great if I can get in touch with everything in Middle-earth again. I did drop him a text the other day just to see how he's getting on. So I don't want to like push him if he's not ready to do videos just yet, but it'd be good to do something with him and just, actually go into the lore and read bits from the book and see how we think it's going to turn out. But I'm not hyped for it. Lord of the Rings trilogy was a lightning in a bottle trilogy, which will never, ever be replicated as much as they try. And I feel like it's almost like it's just one last chance to get the band back together again.
And Two Towers was the worst of the three.
Yeah, arguably. Some people like the Two Towers more than all of them. And who am I to say that they're wrong? But Fellowship's the best one.
I would agree with that.
Right, we're going to round it off there, guys, I think. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in. And, oh, hang on, very, very quickly. Carl says Telford Comic-Con have a lot of the Lost cast going. Yes, they do. I mean, I met Dominic Monaghan as well this weekend, so he's another one that you could have added to the poster. But yes, there is a lot of, yeah, you've got Boone, you've got Shannon, Desmond. Who else am I forgetting? Yeah, the thing is, are you ever going to get all of the major hitters from that show? Are you ever going to get Jack? Are you ever going to get, Locke and everyone else? Who knows? Go for it, though. Why not? There's a lot there. Sarah Connor's there. The T1000's there from T2. So, a lot of good people going. Right, guys. That'll do it for us. We'll catch you on the next video. Take care, everyone.